will websites in 5 years be the same? Websites of 5 years ago were different from websites of today, and websites of 10 years ago were different from websites of 5 years ago. Today, the internet, your website, is part of a $100 billion economy of search, because in search you find the website. But there is no economy for AI right now. Let's say it's your own multi-billion-dollar company called Dani, and you have your marketing budget, and you're spending 50 million on branding and search, another 50 million on social, and you want to spend 50 million on AI that will drive your business. There's no way to do that. So probably 5 years from now, there's going to be such a way. I have no idea what it's going to be like, but it's going to have some impact on what we're doing.
So welcome everyone to the AI Speedrun. I'm here with Yoav Abrahami. He's the Chief Architect at Wix. Welcome, Yoav.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
Awesome. I have here a couple questions for you about how it's been rolling out AI on the Wix engineering team. You ready?
I think, yeah. Go ahead.
So here's how it works. I'm going to reveal each question. It will be like a statement, and you're going to rate it 1 to 5 by dragging over this AI bubble.
Okay.
So the first question is, AI has completely transformed our engineering team's velocity from 1, not at all, to 5, like night and day.
So that's my estimate.
Tell me more.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is AI going into so many places in our organization, from the way code, like using Cursor or something like that, to the way you ramp up new projects, to code reviews, to tools that are helping us with alerts and monitoring, to documentation. We have an MCP server for all of our APIs that now we can actually use that to generate code using our own APIs. We already have we have a design system in Figma, and we have already a way to take only for our specific design system to create code, like a boilerplate for code from it, using our own components, so that it ramp up your time and saves time for the developer. And there's so many things like that that's going on, that it's all going on around focusing on velocity of developers. But I have to say before that Wix is an organization that has about probably 100 people focused on developer velocity. And so once we have AI, obviously we're going to use that all across anywhere we can. But we're already doing a lot in that space.
Wow. So there's 100 people team at Wix that are just making the engineers at Wix faster.
Yeah, it's not a single team. It's there's parts of infrastructure that are measured on making velocity faster. There's parts of the server guild. There's parts of the front-end guild. There's parts of the automation guild. All of the things they're trying to do is make things faster. Just to give an example, which is not AI, we have a way to run end-to-end browser-based tests in a way that when a developer runs the test on their computer, what happens is that each test file is being sent to a different Lambda instance that is ramped up immediately, and then all of the tests run in parallel. It might be like probably we are running probably 1 million tests like that a day, 1 million Lambda calls a day, and then the feedback all goes back to the developer. So the developer doesn't have to wait to run all the tests sequentially one after the other. It's just if there is 1,000 tests, you'll get 1,000 Lambdas ramping up, running tests for half a minute, and then shut it down, and you'll get the result in a minute.
That's so cool. Wait, so going back to some of the tooling that this developer organization has built. Okay, so you guys built an MCP server for your own APIs, connected it to Cursor, so that when the engineers are writing like internal code, building new features, Cursor knows about all the internal APIs you guys can use?
Yes. And the reason why we could do that is because previously we built a way that all of our APIs are being defined in protobuf with our own extensions. And all of the code that actually builds API is auto-generated. There's lots of automation going on there. So then, and also the documentation is auto-generated from that. So taking the documentation into protobuf and generating an MCP server from that is actually was very straightforward.
Wow.
And the result is that now AI knows, we have thousands of APIs, and APIs know them all. By the way, we're going to open that MCP server soon to everyone.
That is so cool. What advice do you usually tell other engineering leaders who want to be as well suited to create such internal tools for their orgs?
I think it's better to start. Let's say this way. The most expensive resource you have in your organization and the resource that you have the largest number of in your organization is the developer. They're more expensive than the product, and there are more developers than product, more expensive than QA, more expensive, there's more developers than managers, more developers than, any other profession. They're the key resource. So any time you can save from the developer, you make your R&D organization better. And that might be reducing the build times. It might be making data much more approachable. It might be adding AI to give you another layer of feedback on pull requests. It might be to give you AI coding assistant to make the developer more effective. It might be anything that you can think about in that area. I know there's so many things. It might be an AI that helps you detect anomalies in BI information so that we can actually pinpoint alerts. Or when there is an alert, to have an AI that looks at all of the forest of information that you can get, all of the dashboards, and try to figure out and give you the right information in the right time to save you time to detect what the problem is. And basically we're throwing AI anywhere we can and trying lots of different POCs, lots of different ideas. Some of them work, some don't, but trying to get that KPI of developer productivity as much as we can.
Wow. As you're testing all these experiments, trying all these POCs, how are you measuring developer productivity? Is there something you can look at, or is it feedback from the devs?
Mostly feedback from the devs. There's things that you can actually measure. Time that it takes to run a test, the time it takes to fix a problem given an alert, the time it takes to start up a new project, the time it takes to take a design from Figma and create an application from it, and so on. And there's stuff that you just get feedback from developers.
So I guess this brings us to a second question, which is you guys are trying so many things. Like I haven't talked to someone who's running an organization trying so much at once. And as you're trying these things, which part of the developer lifecycle are you finding AI is actually the most useful for?
I think I would put it probably somewhere around here.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to be careful here. I think AI today, when you talk about using AI to write code, it's like having another junior developer working for you. And you have to explain to it what you want it to be doing, the same way you would explain a junior developer. And it would make the same mistakes that a junior developer will make. And I can give you an example. I have a project I'm working on. It had probably 200 files that I needed to change the format of some element in them. So I could explain to that AI, hey, go and change the format of that thing in those 200 files. It actually asked me whether to write a script or to do it one by one. I told it, hey, do it by one, and it actually did. But it actually modified other stuff in those files, and also were fixture files for tests, so all the tests broke. So then I needed to explain it, hey, don't touch the other parts of the files. And by the way, those are not JSX files. You can't do inline stuff in them. They're HTML. So you have to explain that stuff, and then it actually works. So when you know to approach it in the right way, it works.
Why of all the areas here did you choose like testing, code gen, code review? Like what are you finding versus the others?
I think the most promising one is CodeGen. And I think then code review is, to help with code review is something really important because we like to do code reviews for one another and so on. I haven't really seen AI doing debugging. I haven't seen it actually being able to run and operate a debugger to figure out a problem. Someone might show that, but I haven't seen that working anywhere. What I did see is that on monitoring, you can actually use AI both for anomaly detection, but also to add monitoring data to your application. You can use that to instrument your application.
Oh, that's so smart.
You know, so there's stuff you can do there, also for testing and so on. The way, for instance, the way I'm working personally, I work TDD. So a lot of times I would either use AI or write my own tests myself, but I would review the test, make sure that they're doing the right thing. And then I can tell AI agent, go and write the code and make sure the tests are green. And that's fine. And that's it. That's a trick.
That's really cool. So it sounds like you guys are building or figuring out ways to use kind of the basic tools. It's not like you're out there buying a bunch of software, like meeting with a bunch of like AI demo pitches. You guys are just figuring out what's possible and building it.
Well, there is no, except for the basic models, there is no really real IP in that field.
Hmm.
You know, everyone is using the same model.
Hmm.
Now, everyone is using the same, what's the name? The Sonnet model for code generation. All of
Yeah.
the tools that are building applications, same model. It writes the same code. It creates the same UI, does the same mistakes. It's exactly the same one. So having a AI loop on top of a model, that's not IP. That's 20 lines of code that you can write yourself. The interesting thing is to find the right workflows that work for you in your organization with your problems. And there's lots of stuff you can do there. It's amazing how many things you can do. With the limitations, there's lots of limitations. And keep in mind, we are now in the middle of the hype of AI code generation hype. There's going to be a big disappointment, probably a year, half a year, 2 years from now. It's going to happen, and then we're going to realize what's the right way to use this tool. The reason I know that is because it happened so many times before. It's going to happen here as well. So you have to try. You have to be skeptic. You have to figure out what's working and what's not. It won't solve all the problems, but it can give you an edge. And if you're not using it, you're making a big mistake.
Yeah, I've heard. I read something that you wrote where it's like this is just a better hammer. It's like if you have the opportunity to use a better hammer, you use it.
Of course,
So
that's the point.
2 weeks ago, you guys launched Astro, which is like an assistant to help you build websites on Wix. And I was wondering, how challenging was it to integrate Astro into the existing Wix product?
Ooh, that is a big challenge because I'm not actually in the details of Astro, to be honest, but I would say it's something around here. And the reason why I'm saying that, we've launched the first AI-based website builder almost 10 years ago, ADI, Wix ADI. Of course, it wasn't using the same kind of models of LLMs. It was something more simpler stuff and simple algorithms, but we're doing that for a long time. And what we're focusing now, we have a number of initiatives on creating websites and creating applications using AI, each one in the right context for it. And so I think it's less of a challenge in terms of the technology. It's more of a challenge in finding the right combination of technology and product and solving a problem in a way that is actually working. And so there is a challenge there because you don't have the formula. No one, you can't go to the internet or ask a model, hey, how do you do that? Because there's no real formula for it. But at the same time, we have so much knowledge in doing things like that that we know it can work. And we have a Wix, we have one already out, one website builder using AI. The current one, we are starting to roll out another thing next week. can't say more. We have more stuff that are being worked on. It's a super exciting time.
What you're saying, we found as well when we started building AI features into our product, the like actual AI part of it wasn't so difficult. But the UX around it, we spent like weeks of iteration. And the engineers were thought it was so funny where they're like, yeah, we're this like applied AI team and all we do is like iterate on design.
Yeah, of course. The most funny thing about AI is the situation with AI today. It's the 1980s user interface. You write text and you get an answer in text. It's like, hey, let's just make the screen black and write the text in green, and we have the 1980s, 1970s computers. What about making it something modern? Some richer interaction.
Okay, this brings me, I want to change what the final question is. This is my final question for you. How different do you think Wix will be in 5 years, like the product, given what's happening in AI?
Ooh, I think I think you have to define what do you mean by the product, Wix, because there's two ways to think about it. One is what problem are we solving, and the second, what the solution is going to be. So for what is the problem we're solving, that would be my answer. What the solution is going to be, that's going to be my answer.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we have, a few things that are happening. Making websites and making websites presence is going to be much easier, obviously, using AI. Still, making a very good looking, with brand, with the right emotions that you want to convey with your website, it's something hard. You need to make a very good design. AI today still doesn't know to make a good design. They know how to copy the bytes from one thing to another, but they don't really have the comprehension of design. So that's still a challenge. It might be solved. But then there is another question. Will websites in 5 years be the same? This is another question that we don't understand. And by the way, websites of 5 years ago were different from websites of today. And websites of 10 years ago were different from websites of 5 years ago. So you have to ask yourself, what would be that website of 5 years from now? Just to give an example of what I mean, today, the internet, your website, is part of a 100 billion, give or take, dollars economy of search. Because in search, you find a website. And then a website is somewhat also part of another economy of another $100 billion economy of social, where in social you find services or a website. And sometimes the services or the website are delivered to a website. So those are two economies that are out there today. But there is no economy for AI right now. If you want, if let's say you're a big enterprise company, let's say it's your own multi-billion-dollar company called Dani, and you have your marketing budget and you're spending 50 million on branding and search, another 50 million on social, and you want to spend 50 million on AI that will drive your business, there's no way to do that. So probably 5 years from now, there's going to be such a way. I have no idea what it's going to be like, but it's going to have some impact on what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, what's the format of the web that the AI can consume and work with?
Actually, you have to think about it in a different way. What is
Okay.
the format of the web that you can actually have paid ads for AI?
Oh my God. Right, right, right. Oh, that's so funny. Yes. Yeah, I understand.
How do you promote? your
Yeah,
product and your brand.
right. Like every company in the world right now is building an MCP. Like everyone's trying to build a tool for the models to use. And the model, when it gets assigned a task, it picks the tools. And it's like, what is the form of advertising that like us companies can do to advertise why our tool is the best choice for the model?
Yep. You can try and ask any model today, I'm looking for a running shoe. And you get an answer. And in that answer, I have no idea, by the way, what answer is going to get there. But if there's going to be Nike, Adidas, and I don't know what, some small company from Southern America, they're all going to look the same. How, how do you trick that?
Yeah. That that is that is so interesting. Okay, Yoav, this has been amazing. On that note, where can people find you, follow what you're building, what you're doing?
So I think the best place is LinkedIn. Twitter, I'm there, but it's more, let's call it more political arena today. Of course, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to answer on anything, help on anything. We have a great culture at Wix of working with the community, and both the community in Israel and the worldwide community. Israel, Ukraine, Vilnius, the US. So reach out, we're able to help. If you are in Israel, Ukraine, Vilnius, reach out to Wix.com careers. We also have small offices in the US, in multiple places. Yep.
Yoav, thank you so much. תודה רבה.
בכיף, בכיף.